Okay, so for our itinerary today, our first stop will be at the Blood Compact Commemorative Shrine. I will tell you a bit of our history upon nearing the Blood Compact Monument. After that, we will proceed to the town of Baclayon to visit the Immaculate Conception Church. It is more popularly known as the Baclayon Church. After that, we will proceed to the Tarsiers. What do you know about the Tarsiers?
Smallest primate.
Smallest primate, smallest monkey. What else? The most important, the Tarsiers, they are our ancestors. So later on, we will have a nomination and votation on who is the #1 Tarsier lookalike among you. Do not include me because I've been a winner a lot of times already. So just among you. After the Tarsier, we will proceed to the town of Loboc for our lunch and river cruising. Lunch, we will be sharing with other groups. And there is a loading time of 30 minutes. From the start of the cruise all the way back is at least an hour. Then after that, we will be passing by the place we call the man-made forest all the way to the Chocolate Hills. So please have a look. We have a map. However, the map is a little distorted because actually it's a bit of oval shape, but this one is stretched. Sabaan nato nang gabutangan ni mahal ha. So, as of the moment, we are in Tagbilar. If you would look closely at the map, it looks like a turtle. The head is the island of Panglao, and that's the body, of course, and there's even like a tail and some legs. So we are here, Tagbilaran City. The town of the Chocolate Hills is right in the middle of the island. Taliwa. So we are going on a mountain area. That's why there's going to be a bit of a winding road. Whenever we have a winding road in the Philippines, we call them tinaig manok. Yeah. So anyhow, as of the moment, we are here in Tagbilaran City, the only city and the capital of Bohol. Bohol province is composed of Tagbilaran City, the only city and the capital. We have 47 towns and 73 islands. The population is 1.3 million. We are 90% Catholic. Now, question. What have you noticed is our what is our number one transportation in the city? Uy, mga Tagalog sila, tricycle. Kaya maguta, tricycle. Tricycle, anggol, angkol, jingle. But when it is Tagalog, they say tricycle, anggel. Yeah. Now, in every small city, we have a different structure, different capacity of tricycles. Here in Tagbilaran, the maximum capacity is 3. 2 inside the cab, 1 at the back of the driver, but that is of course Filipino size. Og dagko nga foreigner dili na masuduha sa sulod. Also at the back of our tricycles, there is a luggage area. You can still do that here without any fear that when you have a sharp turn, your luggages or your groceries will be stolen. That's not yet rampant, so you can safely put your luggages at the back. Also, at the back of the driver's side, there is a religious writing. Now, that is a city ordinance because before, the drivers, they used to put sexy pictures of alcoholic beverages, the posters of alcoholic beverages like tanduay, beer na beer. Now, as I have mentioned earlier, we are 90% Catholic. It just so happened that in the late 80s, one of the city councilor was the president of the CWL. So she sponsored a city ordinance stating that no drivers or operators will be given a license to operate, not unless they will put a religious writing at the back of our tricycles. Well, if you're an agnostic or perhaps an atheist, you can put something with a good message. If you are a Muslim, you can put something from the Quran as long as it's a food for thought. No more sexy pictures. No more bus driver, sweet lover. This to your left side, that used to be the Holy Land University, but after the earthquake, they rented out to, I think, Alturas, and that's going to be a mall. Now, in front of us, there's a big acacia tree. Under that acacia tree is a restaurant called Garden Cafe. The waiters and waitresses of that restaurant are deaf and mute people. It is an NGO owned by Americans. They are helping the hearing impaired. They send them to school. They have special schools. Afterwards, they have the option to work for the company. So when you order, you just write down your orders. Ang mga naay gitago, gustong mo tago, anak mangaon ka, way manglibak, way musumbong. That's a clue for you if ever your time will come na magtago-tago. Left side, that is our city park named after our national hero, Dr. Tarsier. The other side of the road used to be our provincial capital building. After the earthquake, the provincial government donated it to the National Museum. And to the right side is our city cathedral, St. Joseph Cathedral. So this is a typical Spanish setting. When an area was established by the Spaniards, you would know that it hasn't changed so much if you can still see these structures. That was the mandate of King Felipe II to have this area called reduction. Only those who would become Catholic, who will be baptized into the Catholic religion, are allowed to live within the reduction. The others may live outside of it because it symbolizes something. Now, the municipal hall, capitol building, or any head of the government building is the domain of the people. The plaza is like the neutral part, and the church is the domain of God. So, there is no salvation for the Catholic religion. We do believe, especially a long time ago, they do believe that there is no salvation if you will not become a Catholic. So, you have to cross the neutral ground, go to the church to be saved. Now, Tagbilaran City, by the way, is called the City of Friendship in the Philippines. And why is that? Who has an idea? Yes. The first ever recorded blood compact between a Filipino chieftain and a Spanish leader happened in Bohol. So, who did the blood compact? Raja, Sikatuna, and Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. How is the blood compact being done? How is it conducted? You cut an incision. You cut the throat. You cut an incision on the throat. You cut an incision on the part of the arm, sometimes on the chest. You let a few drops of blood into a cup of wine. Kami kay paminawan ng wine. Tuba, ragod to. Mix the wine and a few drops of blood. You drink it as a sign of friendship and brotherhood. So, san dugo? Isang dugo, usang dugo. So, we are now blood brothers. Supposedly, blood brothers. Now, who first came to the Philippines to try to colonize us? Who was the one who circumnavigated the earth? In 15th, Magellan. So Magellan befriended some chieftain before he was killed by Lapu-Lapu. So probably he also conducted blood compact with those chieftains. However, he was killed by Lapu-Lapu in Mactan Island, and his boats, some of his boats were burned down, so his records of doing the blood compact with the other chieftains were not found. 44 years later came the Legazpi expedition. Legazpi wanted to go to Mindanao, but due to bad weather and lack of food and the water, he was forced to anchor in Bohol. Lucky for him, the chieftain at that time was friendly, Raja Sikatuna. So instead of fighting, they forged a friendly relationship. Oh, by the way, to the right side, that is Panglao Island, where most of the resorts are located. Mactan is to Cebu, Panglao is to Bohol. There are 2 land bridges connecting Panglao to mainland Bohol, and our international airport is also situated in Panglao. Now, when Raja Sikatuna and Miguel Lopez Tiligaspi performed the blood compact.
Manata.
Okay.
Di ba kasakay?
There, and then from Cebu, he went up north to Manila and befriended Raja Sulaiman, and the rest they say is history. We were under Spanish rule for 333 years. So that's it. Miguel Lopez de Legazpi was the one who started building the Intramuros, and his body is buried in San Agustin Church. Now, let us proceed to Baclayon Church. So the biggest festival in Bohol is the Blood Compact Festival or Sandugo Festival. It is done in during the month of July. We have a month-long celebration. Traditionally, the street dancing or mini Mardi Gras is done every 3rd Sunday. But sometimes they move it to another date or another day to coincide with another big celebration. Wala. And we also have our Misandugo every July. So that's part of the celebration. Now, we Filipinos, before we become Catholics, before our brothers down south became Muslims, we have a collective belief called Filipino animism. Part of it is a belief that everything has spirits. And also part of it is about Abalete Tree, that it is a home or dwelling of supernatural beings. So if we pass by at Abalete Tree, what do we do? Sabi. And then at night time, we blow our horns. This area is actually an accident-prone area. It is not a killing field, but it is an accident-prone area because there are huge balete trees. Right side, those overhang of branches are balete trees. Have a look. There is a balete tree outside the fence. There's a huge balete tree inside the fence. According to the people here, before the owner built the fence there, they consulted albulario or shamans. And the shamans talked to the spirits, and the spirit said that they will not harm anybody as long as they do not cut down a balete tree. That's why they gave space to that balete tree outside rather than cutting it. A balete tree is a member of the ficus family. It is a parasite tree. Okay na. It comes from a small seed. It will attach to a host tree. Some will just always attach, but others like this one, they devour the host tree. And then from the top, it drops roots. When it reaches the ground, it will become trunks. So ever wonder why there's so many trunks? It did not grow from the bottom going up, but it will drop its roots and then it will become trunks. So we believe that a balete tree is a home of Capre, Encantada, Diwata, Mulawin, Ravenna, Mansaway Uban. Yes. So, to us, it's a scary tree, but to the people of India, it is a holy tree. Not all, because, well, there are other religions in India as well. But basically, for the Buddhist people, because under a balete tree is where Gautama meditated. He attained his nirvana and became a Buddha. So different cultures, different beliefs. To hadlok, hala, ayaw dyan magputol, ana, kayo na yung kanto, ana. But to them, it is a holy tree. Now we are here at the town of Baclayon. Baclayon is from the word baklay, lakwon, or Baclayon, just a walking distance. This is the oldest town in Bohol. That is why this is where we can find the oldest total stone church in the island. It is popularly known as Baclayon Church. However, the priests, they don't really like to call the church Baclayon. Di man sila mga bayot, Jinoy. Baclayon, dili man kuno. So, anyway, the proper way of calling a church is supposedly the name of the saint and not the name of the town. But in the Philippines, we are used to calling them by the name of the town or the province. White Church, Baclayon Church, Quiapo Church, but Cebu is an exception. It's really Santo Niño Church. That's the right way. Like St. Peter's Basilica, they do not call it Rome Church or Vatican Church. When we say Vatican Church, it means the institution and not the building. So we will visit the church now. They have their own guide. I will hand you over to the guide. The guide will give you time to pray, to take pictures. Just remember, that is not allowed to take pictures at the museum, only at the church. Now, do we have first-timers here? Oh, nay gamay. First time, dili nay gamay ha. There's a few. Okay, for the first-timers, we have a saying, whenever it is your first time to visit a church, you may make a wish. Wish ka mo kapasar. So these are the old houses built during the Spanish time, the Spanish colonial houses. As you may have noticed, they are really at the shouldering of the road because the houses were there before the road. Now, when our roads were cemented, supposedly there's a 5-meter law, no structures, no houses. But so those houses were to be destroyed, but the people lobbied saying, save our legacy. Bahandi dili gugon. So they did not destroy the houses, though it's a risk because it's already on the shouldering. Now that is the church. The portico and the bell tower collapsed. Partly collapsed when we had the big earthquake in 2013. We had a 7.2 magnitude earthquake in Bohol. Luckily, the damage was not so extensive that they were able to restore the church as opposed to rebuilding the church. But in Loboc, they cannot restore, so they are now rebuilding. Now, you may ask the guy there, what is the difference between the restoration of this church as to the rebuilding of the church in Loboc? Just a few hints. Now, please follow me straight ahead through the arc. That is the entrance to the church and the museum. We will spend 30 minutes here. Let's go.
Guys, say hi to the vlog. Overall. Asa man? Kani? Ay, late.
ang isa po na design is neoclassical kanina naman ay neoclassical. Kanin siya nga design kanina yung mga flower, mga fruits, manay baroque. Philippine baroque design. So, sa center tablo, natay kanang nasa side kita kanang globe. Ubos na globe. So, manay logo ni kanang sa Jesuits missionary kanang Mariam logo na siya. Then, kanang kilid na niya kanang white. So, manay ad maiorem di gloriam. So, it means God exaggerated glory. Yeah. Dahil kanang nasa taas, manay atong patron saint sa Diocese of Tagbilaran, Saint Joseph the Worker. Dahil natin two angels, Saint Gabriel and Saint Michael. Then we have the Holy Trinity and the Blessed Virgin Mary. Then ang parents niya, San Joaquin and Saint Anne. So mo na yung family ni Mary. Kanang nasa center ni tablo. Or sa English, we call that altar screen. Then kaning side nga altar, money during the Augustinian Recollects. So mga early 1800s na ni siya. So katong nasa taas, that's kalimut ko. Santa Lucia. Si Santa Lucia man ay patron saint sa ice. Then we have Saint Blas, patron saint sa throat or sa kaning lalamunan. Wala siya. Then the Santo Niño, then Saint Anthony di Padua, man ay patron saint kung ay mawa. Kanang ipasan Anton, wala siya. Then Carisad, that's Saint Nicholas de Tolentine. Then we have Santa Monica, the mother of San Agustin, and Our Lady of Consolacion. Then we have also the original tiles from Mexico and Spain. Katong blue dito, we call that azulejos. Then kani siya Matsuka. Then kani Baldosa. So kaning Baldosa, dili lang sa Pilipinas, especially sa Bohol. Then, kanang product called ito or pulpit. So, before wala tayong microphone. So, ang pari mo sa kabila sa sermon. Then, kato, balcony sa church. We call that ang place na sa mga VIP or dignitaries dito. So, na may discrimination. Then, kanang side chair, mo na yung mga lingkuranan sa mga elite. Ito mga gobernador civil, mga inana sa government and siya. Then, sa likod natin choir loop. Then, right side, atong pipe organ from 1824.
1824.
So, na-restore na lang siya last 2008. So,
Restored 2008.
during the kanang mga Ayala Foundation ng taban nato na para sa restoration. Then, kanang beam sa tunga, ito made of one whole piece of wood. So, muna siya nagtabang sa church na wala siya ni-collapse during the earthquake.
So, original.
Original na siya, pero nasa na-support na makita ninyo, ang i-support na lang siya on steel truss. Made out of, ang wood na siya ma'am, pero ang support na niya steel truss na. Then, kaning paintings na to, bago na ni siya. So, Willie Layo. Paano siya taga Pampanga? Willie Layo. Layo. Paintings. Wala tayo na kasi na wala ang sa so actually, kani siya gitawag nato ni Ugdom ha. Kani may name. Katong na dito dapat narthex. Kanang naay kanang ilawom sa pipe organ man ni narthex. Ang gawas ana facade niya bell tower. Dome, narthex, dome, nave, narthex, facade. Kanang ilawom sa pipe organ. Narthex, then facade tong gawas. So kato nga chair, mo tingkuranan sa mga babae. Sa una, separate mga babae sa mga lalaki. So ang mga lalaki dire, ang mga babae dito.
Uy, bayo.
Kato nga. Symbolize niya sila Baga karon mo na nagtawag na to mayor.
So this for the mayor.
Oh. Dan kani siya katong gi kanang para bitaw paingon siya kanang sa tawag ana oy. Kanang ako anon bitayon mga inana bitaw sa tawag ana. Basta inana siya. Mana. Dan kani siya katong nasa mga DNR ba na siya? Kanang sa mga ikukuan. DNR dan kanang naisa
Justice.
kani sa justice.
Justice.
Ya kadto siya kanang nasa mga farm or sa animals o agriculture. Ya kadto sa tumoy si Sakeo kay gamay man, di ba? Gamay si Sakeo so para na sa mga BIR.
BIR.
Tax collector.
Mga taxes.
Ano na siya?
Kini, judge.
Kani actually murag kuan convection na siya or parang secretary ba?
Ay, ana sila mo lingkod gyud kung kisay head ani. Ani sila mo lingkuranan sa to kadagko gyud sila kayo.
Symbol ani.
Nga ani kadak-a kayo. Tambok siya kayo.
Actually inani ragod niya kadto sumpay ragod kay si Sakeo may gamay.
Share, ma'am. Original share.
Original na siya 1800s. Actually before wala may mga fuse so ang mga tao nag-squat lang sa floor. Mag-squat na lang sila. Kanila mga lingkuranan para ni sa mga special person.
Pero abutang gyud nagid sa kilid gyud siya perme.
So katong saat bang mga elite po nga
Mga
babae?
ilit mga babae, kumbaga mga asawa nila, na. Ang naguba sa church, ang tower lang ug ang fasad.
Natunga sa mga bahay.
Pero ang structure ani original gihapon, nalay mga cracks ginagmay. Then almost 4 years ang restoration kay i-check nila ang foundation sa church. 4 years.
Ano ba sa'yo sa to? Kompleto siya in 4 years.
Since sa earthquake, wala gigamit ang church. So ang minsan na to dito sa gawas natin after. Karon na gigamit siya. Sa before lang at wala pa gigamit na. Sa inyong mga panelists.
Panelist.
Kana bang mukuha ninyo?
Panelist.
Pare, yun na sa kung mo para malibre po kung mo ani.
Bitaw ka naman ako.
Ito, birthday ka ba? So kanina ay mga namurang lapida, wala na siya bone sa sulod ha, bali mga ngana na sila, mga famous people na isama ko na sa Ambrosio, si Katosa, ano yung mga doktor sa church ko pa, ang ikaw na nasa San Agustin. May mga doktor sa church mo ay magakuan ba? May mga kaso-kaso upuan. Kana si Hieronimo. Mana?
Original na painting madam.
Original 1800s. Canvas paintings na siya on wood. Kanin siya mo na Ascension. Ang Ascension is 40 days after Jesus rise. Yeah, or pagsaka sa Ginoo sa langit. Saka na descent of the Holy Spirit. On a main door, we have side doors. Kanin mo ang ikaupat ani niya si San Agustin. Liberato Gatchalian. Kaya naman maghapon tayo old paintings dito, Liberato Gatchalian, pero canvas gyapon ko.
Pero kini,
Canvas gyapon ni siya pero sa wood.
kahoy. Sa una pa na eh.
1800.
Ah, 1800.
Yung siguro ito mga nang one time dito mga natagan pa ng mga
Itabang o gimo sa samahan, sa structure sa samahan.
Oo nga. Benefactor.
Oy, gajoke na to mga
Gajoke na to sa
Pero ako man siguro.
Oo. Sultan ko eh. Mas body na ta. Itong normal na. Ito raw.
because they're using also the same. Kung sa siya sa una, maura siya gyapon.
Because it was considered before as neoclassical, right?
No, it's Philippine Baroque.
Philippine Baroque Church. So because
Restoration is still community.
because in
Si Ma'am Marissa, ano siya tama?
Community guide,
it's
yeah.
considered as
Two types of guide,
neoclassical.
regional and
We
community.
still have Philippine Baroque. Because the neoclassical is, you change the design.
When was that?
We don't have changes. So we just do like that.
Everything.
Ang outer ginagawa nga kanang oo na Baroque design. Ang akong inner design, katong nasa side, katong na yung kailangan at lang na Itinerary. So, wala si Jesus. More of the design is
The doors, ma'am, is it
original. Small structures at church made of coral stone and the plastered with white limestone and sand.
Egg white lines.
422 years here. Coral Stone Church.
But since the time it was built, ma'am.
May design na gina siya para sa ato ang choir.
Egg white mud and
Dali siya kung ang pang-restore magudani. If we say restoration, kung unsa siya sa una, maaro gud gihapon.
But then ever since, kaya sana siya na-restored.
Oh, since earthquake lang, wag gud ni siya maunsa kung kwan. Actually, they're not using egg white anymore. Mahal na magod siya ang egg white. So, kuha na siya ang semento. Ang semento, it's a small amount na gyapon ng semento. Kaya dili man siya friend sa coral stone. So, they're using white cement or kanang apog or calcium carbonate.
For how long ka siya
So, almost 200 years.
Same
Kaya 1596 good siya.
Nahuman
So,
ng 17.
nahuman ng 1727. So, especially sa materials. So,
1596.
sa dagat ng coral stone.
Then, nahuman.
Egg white pa, mag-lay o
Naman ng
kuha ng mga manok.
1727.
1727.
Na-establish. Kasi kay umingon bitaw tawag church, di ba ang church ay sa mga tao? Mo na siya. Mo na gitawag siya na-establish ang church nato 1596. Niligod ingon nga kaning structure niya. Kung we say nga ang structure gyud niya na-complete ni siya 1727. Present structure.
because if it is
Is it
considered to
correct,
be
ma'am, that
the bills na ni 15
mo balik ani nanguha na po sa itong mga
Dili, kung unsa ang stone nga nahulog sa
Maura gyapon
earthquake,
gibalik.
maura gyapon gibalik.
enforce
Oh.
Na
ang
support.
ang reinforcement katurang nasa tower sa Pasag. But the whole structure already happens there. Yes. Egg white again. Next year sa una. So if we say kanaingon mo sila nga paghimo nila ani giluto pa nilang egg white, ang limestone para siya
Wow,
buuan.
iluto pa din.
Oo,
Ay, dili
iluto
yun
pa
gidritso.
kuno. Correct.
Ang pagtuo gidritso.
Giprito pa.
So, sa pa.
Side up. Ay, kanila ko ka na scrambled na. Kani ang mga side up, no? Ay, scrambled na. Kani side up siguro.
Okay, feeling ila pang lutuon kay ay abi siya nagukural marag ilang gi kanang gipighak ba.
Oo.
Ila din ang mga dugmok ilang gi-form.
True.
Kaya pa man
True. Pero ang sarap sila pagkaluto. I think scrambled. And then
So the directory of the priest, or we call it Casa Parroquia. Casa Parroquia. So it was added 1872. So it used to be the rectory of the priest.
Now, we are proceeding to Corelia to visit the Tarsiers, to visit our ancestors. Tis gandang turista, no? Retouch. Retouch muna. Okay. Now, Tarsier Sanctuary was founded in, the foundation was founded in 1997. In the late 80s, Tarsier became a specially protected species until it became an endangered species. Now, the local businessmen of Bohol before, they decided to do something about that. So they organized, or they created a foundation dedicated to the conservation effort of the Tarsier species. So they bought an area in Corelia, a 7.4 hectare area, where they have identified that there are still a lot of tarsiers in the wild. So that is where we are going. Now, the field manager of the Philippine Tarsier is Mr. Carlito Pizaras. He really has a good story, touching story. The livelihood of the family of Mr. Lito, nung Lito, before, was taxidermy. So they hunt, they poach exotic animals, they preserve them to sell to collectors. Mang Lito, or nung Lito, he is the best catcher of the Tarsier. So the best seller of their taxidermy business is the Tarsier. But when Mang Lito turned 13, he cannot bring himself to kill a Tarsier anymore. So instead, he tried to raise them in captivity, to which he became successful, because in fact he was able to breed in captivity. So when the foundation opened, he was the logical choice to head it as the field manager. Whenever scientists, whenever VetMed students come to Bohol to study the Tarsier, he is the #1 source of information. And this is mostly my knowledge I ask from him, because sometimes it's different in the books, in the research, yes, than from the guy who really went to the wild and see the Tarsiers. Tarsier, as popularly known, the smallest monkey in the world. However, they're not monkeys. They are also primates like us, like the monkeys, but they belong to a much order family. So they belong to the prosimian primate, meaning before, simian is the apes or the monkeys. So they have been here on Earth for about 45 million years. The name Tarsier is from the word tarsal. Tarsal is the bone at the feet. Later, I'll show you, there's a skeleton there, or with the pictures. Because the Tarsiers, they have elongated tarsal bones, so even if they're only 5 to 6 inches, they can leap 3 to 5 meters. Because the tarsal bone is like a spring that catapults them far. They are mostly arboreal, so they live on trees, hopping, jumping from one branch to another. However, sometimes they can be on the ground as well. When they're on the ground, they hop like kangaroos. They look so cute, kaya anapermas kamon. In fact, before, they were thought to be marsupials, because whenever they have babies, they would hide their babies here at the front. But on later studies, of course, it was discovered that they don't have pouches. Small as they have a long lifespan of up to 25 years, because they also have a long gestation period. Pregnancy is 6 months, and then one baby only, single birth. But sometimes in the wild, it can be observed that a mother Tarsier may be feeding, nursing 2 babies, because the Tarsiers, they have a mating season. So the peak of the mating season is November, December, January. So more or less, they give birth at the same time. Now, in all of the mammals, Tarsiers has the biggest rate with regards to the size of the mom, 5 to 6 inches, and the size of the baby, about 1 inch. So upon giving birth, mortality rate is quite high. So a mother tarsier could die. If ever a mother tarsier could die, of course the baby would cry, it's hungry. So that will also serve as an SOS. So another mother tarsier will adopt that baby. So tarsiers mostly live a solitary life. They are solitary and they are territorial. When it is the mating season, syempre, the male would go to the female's territory and he would court her. If he is the lucky one, then the male tarsier would stay with the female's territory, waiting for such the time that the female is ready for mating. Because per mating season, the female can only be available once. Mo-open ra jud nang iya kausa per mating season. Yes, mo-tuot jud ng laki, sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks. And then when he gets what he wants, of course he will leave the female territory. But he is not yet going back to his own territory. Find another female. So the male tarsier could mate between 4 to 6 female in a certain mating season. Typical male puno. Hala. Bato-bato sa langit, change the time. Here. Tarsiers are thought of to be found in Bohol only, but of course we know that they can also be found in Sulawesi, Indonesia, in Borneo. There are 4 species of tarsier and there are some subspecies as well. It's just that in the earlier part of the studies of the tarsier, most of the research were done in Bohol. Footages of National Geographic, Animal Kingdom, they were shot at the sanctuary. So when the credits roll, it would say Bohol, Philippines. That's why people assume that they can only be found in the Philippines. 3 major reasons on why a tarsier has become especially or endangered species. Number 1 is the natural habitat, the loss of natural habitat. Tarsiers, they live on small growth trees. And these are the type of trees that the farmers would cut down to burn them and farm the land. So, again, system. That's the number 1 reason. Because tarsiers, they have these tiny suctions on their palms. They would just stick their palms. At the same time, just a small grip. So whether sleeping or resting, they would just stick their palms like that. That's why they prefer to live on small trees. And there was even a misconception before. People thought that tarsiers are eating charcoal or the diet is composed of charcoal. Because, for example, the territory of the tarsier was burned, but the tarsier was able to escape the fire. He would go home to that place because home sweet home, it is his territory. Now, the farmers would come back during the day to clear away the land or the debris of the small trees. And it's easy to catch the tarsier or to see the tarsier there. So they thought that the tarsiers go to that place to eat the charcoal when in fact, the tarsiers are just going home to their place. Because if we come to think of it, tarsiers has been here on Earth for 45 million years, long time before we humans were here. And we discovered fire. Diba? So wala pa'y uling sa unang panahon. Uwi na ang tarsier. So definitely, they do not eat charcoal. What is the diet or what are the diet of the tarsier? Sa may kanong tarsier ba? Sex? Anay in, okay. Insects. Not only insects. They are not only insects but generally they are carnivorous. because whatever is smaller than them, they can eat. Because if we say insects, insectivore, only insects. So they're carnivores because they also eat arachnids like spiders. They eat butterflies. They eat reptiles like small snakes. They eat small birds. When the snakes grow big and the birds grow big, they will also eat the tarsier. Kaya ang banog mukhang bentang po tarsier. It's among the predators of the tarsier. Snakes, of course. Even domesticated cats. But the domesticated cats, they do not really eat the tarsier. They will just play with it. Mabunog o kamatay. Mara pa kung ilaga nga doon sa iring, mabunog o kamatay. That also happens. That's why here at the sanctuary, they have this fence to avoid domesticated cats coming inside. Now, the sanctuary is about 8.4 hectare area. Through donation, they were able to buy 1 more hectare. But the surrounding timberland owned by DNR, the care of that was given to the sanctuary because there are also a lot of tarsiers. Speaking of the baby tarsiers, they only stay with their mom for about 8 months, less than a year. They would leave the territory of the mother to find their own territory. Nanagit sila ka loners. And also with the mating season, the male tarsier could be visiting the same female next year or another female. They are not like the winged animals because most of the winged animals like the swan, the eagles, they are monogamous. They do not find another partner unless another partner will die. What is the local name of the tarsier? What are the local names of the tarsier? Mamag, maumag, and mago. Summer and Leyte, they mostly call it mago. Mago, I think it's close to the word quago or owl because they're also nocturnal. You will know whether a tarsier's picture was taken during the day or during the night, not only because of the dark background, but because of the black of the eyes. When it's daytime, since they're nocturnals, when it's daytime, the black of the eye is protracted, so just like a dot. But when it's nighttime, it's dilated. That's why they can see better at night. However, unlike us, they cannot move their eyeballs. They cannot look upward, downward, or sideways. Just straight. No peripheral vision. But they can turn their heads how many degrees?
180.
180 and 180. A total of 360. Bulok-bulok, mabubugog man. I was thinking, 180, it says, diba, the tarsiers, the owls, they can turn their heads 180 degrees to the right and 180 degrees to the left. So when anybody would ask me how far they can turn their heads, I only answer 180. But if you will think of it, if the tarsiers are looking at the back, they will turn their heads at the passing by at the front all the way to the other side. That's almost 360 degrees. However, it should pass by at the front. Dili sa likod, kaya kung sa likod, manananggal na. Tubangan lang. Now, when we visit the tarsiers, what are the things that you know that are not allowed?
No flash.
Yes. Whenever you take pictures, please disable your flash. Bawal pud ang mga banhaan. Yes. And, of course, you cannot touch or hold the tarsiers. And please refrain from shaking the branches. Sa una, I laugh when people would say, ayaw uyugan ng kahoy, huwag yugibin ng kahoy. I laugh, kung yugyugon. But it's really true that some people do that. And mostly it's Pinoy. Di ba yata pailan? Uyugan ko na, malagi muliyok, di ka tinuod, uy, kuhan na, saktoy, uyuga ba? Uyugan yung taon, magkakurat-kurat ang tarsier. So, I said, yeah, it could really happen. So, those are the things that are not allowed. Now, most of the time, when we visit the tarsier, we also see Nung Lito is always there. In 2001, Nung Lito was the awardee of the Hero for Today of Southeast Asian version of Reader's Digest. Yep. They had this award before, Hero for Today, those people who has contributed a lot for mostly ecological things. So we're very proud, and Nong Lito is now called the Tarsier Man. Tarsier Man, kamera, nag-check na ako, Tarsier, ikaw sumuha. Yes, and a few years ago, a subspecies of tarsier is named after him. The scientific name of the Philippine tarsier is Tarsier Sanctuary, and then there is a subspecies that is named Carlito serecta. At the Tarsier Sanctuary, when we arrived there, let us go. Would anyone want to use the toilet before we proceed to the view area? Okay, so we'll give you 10 minutes to use the toilet, then we will proceed to the view area. After that, I'll show, they have some facts and data also there. So let's read for a while. The picture of the skeleton that I told you about. The skeleton of the tarsier is actually like a dwarf dinosaur. It's intact. And they also have a fetus of baby tarsier. It's just like this size. So, toilet first. When everyone is gathered around, let's proceed and see the tarsiers. They have their own guides inside, but their guides are not allowed to talk because of course it's silence. Please inside, diba? So, if ever you have questions, when we come out, let's have a look at the data. Almost there. Just a few more minutes. You may leave your things inside the bus. Just make sure to always check your valuables. Cell phone, wallet, camera. Kanang mabilin ani ayaw mo kabalaka kayong sad ang driver nagpaguna siya. Karon lang, kalun ng buntag. Di ba mahal? Sad na ka. Wala day mo sad ko. Aman mo tingog. Nag-ana lang ninyo, dad-ana lang gamit ha. So those type of trees, second growth trees, small trees, those are the trees that the tarsiers prefer to live. Whenever there is bad weather, the tarsiers would stay on the extremities. It's either near the roots or just below the branches where there's like more coverage. According to the other area, there are two places in which we can visit the tarsiers, right? This one here, the sanctuary, and the other is the conservation area. According to them, after the earthquake, they found dead tarsiers on the ground. I think they were stressed out. They cannot understand anymore because in fact tarsiers, they have suicidal tendencies. Whenever they don't understand what is happening around, that's why they don't like to be in captivity. They do not eat until they die. Or they go on a hunger strike. Or they bang their heads on hard objects. Takog head bangers lang sila. They have some huge pictures of the tarsiers here. See? That's the nighttime. Look at the black of the eyes. That's the nighttime, right? Here, the other side. That's the daytime. The first picture. It's okay to stay here between 45 minutes to an hour. You may want to take notes after we see the tarsiers. Maglakaw, exercise na ta. Please follow me. Indonesia. So Indonesia has so many islands like us, diba? And only in Sulawesi also that the Tarsiers occur. If we would look at the map, siguro kanina area probably connected before, diba? Katong ilang giingon na the Great Landmass. So we don't know kung asa nag-una, diri dito, basta that's the area that we can find the Tarsiers. Si Manglito, sa mga naway, si Manglito na siya. And here, let's move to the other picture. So that's where we get that name Tarsier. Now, itong samantalas night time. During the day, the number one defense mechanism is hearing. Ang ilang dunggan, ay picture itong sudo niya, makakita mo na yung nagpilo, mo na yung nagtakilid, mo nag-satellite, pwedeng ilibot-libot ilang dunggan. Tago na ng uban. witnessing the mating of the tarsier. No? And most of us, we are using the female going to the territory of the male. In the video of Animal Kingdom, it is the male courting the female. It is the male who would be fighting over the affection of the female. Though there are 4 species of tarsier, and we usually say that they are solitary and they are territorial. However, the Bornean tarsier actually live in small colony. They live in a family of 3 to 5. But for the Philippine tarsier, let's say information, and for though dili pa ni time, but I think you're concerned, para sa grading ninyo sa mock tour, it would be preferable to use Manglito's version. I only say about this so that you would also be aware. And it's a bit of muddled actually because we say carnivorous, but personally, I have seen a tarsier ate a leaf. And I asked the caretaker, why is it eating? I thought they're only carnivorous. And the caretaker told me, ma'am, mukhaon gid na sila, ma'am, actually labi na og masakit. They know their medicine. So that's why I don't often say this, because probably it's because murag iring, just like the cats, diba? Mukhaon sila kung oo na ay sakit. So it's nice to know that there are a lot of theories. There's some thoughts about the tarsier, but for you, stick to what you have learned from Nunglito. Anak sa lang siguro ta. Okay. Now, how many islands do we have in the Philippines? 7,600. Agoy, ginoo ko. Ginoo, mausap na po na sunod. Mausap na po na kami ng China, ilaha ang uban. But anyway, whatever, the official count is, ikapila man ang Bohol ng kinadak-an nga isla. The 10th largest island with an area of 4,117 square kilometers. I am not actually very good with things like this, but the north, what are the northern towns, what is the average humidity, what is the average rainfall of Bohol or of the Philippines. These are very important during my time. So when I started guiding, most of our guests are Europeans and they are concerned about this. Pero mga Asians, mga grupong Pinoy, mag-istorya ka ginana nga na budo ning guide aning yaw-yaw aning labot daw sa gidakon sa inyong isla. But anyway, yes, Bohol is the 10th largest island in the Philippines, and our number 1 livelihood is what is it? Agriculture, and next is fishing, and third is tourism. Finally, fourth is the cottage industries. With regards to farming, daghan na po taan na og makuhaan og unsay first, unsay second na product, but the top 4 could be in no particular order. Number 1, no particular order kuno niya. Number 1, sure ko ani, number 1 is coconut. If we guide for foreigners, they would ask, of course, what the coconut is for. Basically, it's for oil, because our number 1 cooking oil is coconut oil. In Europe, it is olive oil. Taga-Europe jud sila. Yes. So, coconut, rice, corn, bananas. How many species or varieties of bananas do we have? How many? Mapukay ba? Uy? 2. Well, yes, we can say 2 divided into 2. Dagang klase, pero it's basically divided into 2, the kitchen banana and the table and the banana cube. The kitchen banana and the table banana. The kitchen banana, muna yung usay atong ingnon o cooking banana, but the right term they say is the kitchen banana. because it has to take a trip to the kitchen. Lutuon mo muna sa imong kanon. The table banana, katong dili na kinahanglan lutuon. Once it's on the table, it's ready for eating. Okay. Now, we Filipinos, we are very fond of number 1, the biggest, the brightest, the first, the sweetest. So if we say the sweetest mangga, asa man na?
Panglaw. Arlaw.
Bohol gid yung concept no, in Bohol of course panglaw jud ko no. Oo. In the Philippines we'd say gimaras. Pero makig-away ang Zambales ana because they say their variety is sweeter. However, ang gimaras nakakuha sila permit to export to the US. Sila lang ang nahatagan. So, but ingon ang Zambales, but it is not the reason to claim na they are the sweetest. Now, if we'd say the sweetest lanzones, kitang taga Bisaya o Mindanao, may taga Kamigin. Pero makigaway ko ng taga Paite, Laguna. Oh, yun sila gilahagid ko no. O Bohol, what are we claiming? Halamay, pinatkises,
Ube.
Ube. Oh, we are claiming that the most aromatic, the most starchy, malabo, ube is kinampay. Oo. Though, mo-approve si Senator, tayo naman ang Papa, Senator Angara. Actually, he was the one who told me that that is official. When I got it for him, he said that, did you know when I was the Secretary of Department of Agriculture, it is really acknowledged that the best ube in the Philippines is the ube kinampay, the kinampay variety. Now, did you know the relevance of ube to the Boholano people? Wala tayo. Now, in the early days, during the time of famine, the time of sulungon tag mga pirata, when the Boholanos were not able to plant rice, we ate, among others, ube. So we believe that ube is a gift of spirits. Regalo ni Bathala, aron dili mamatay sa gutom. Gift of Bathala, thus it is sacred. So, if ever we accidentally drop an ube, we have to kiss the ube. Napay mga nakasuway ani sa mga lulog-lula nga, nakasuway ka po. Uy, kiss na. Oo, kagabaan ka mong tingay. Oo, nga nun tampong gabaan man, tas ube. Adyo na pangutan na kay makadungog mga espiritu. Maana, but yes, because it saved us from starvation. And we really love the ube that in our Bohol hymn, napagilin niya diha, di ba? Matapis na kinampay. Oh, I thought that all of the provinces in the Philippines, after singing the national anthem, kantahon po ng ilahang provincial hymn. They don't do that di ay, dili tanan. Kita gid kay ikaw bayang magiliw, kanta gid ang tag awit sa Bohol. Oh, yuta kong minahal dayon. And then starting dayon ng ube. Oh, that's how we love the ube. Now, we also have an ube festival, right? The Ube Festival is 3rd week of January. But I remember my grandmother telling me that there is a ritual or palihi on how to plant the ube. Kasi may nakaibawan eh. Wala na. The person, yes, who will plant the ube, kinahanglan, it must be a woman, a lady, na dakuog, gift. Kung ginagigis iya ha, maghugo. Dakuog, utoy. True, tinuod, oo. Kinahanglan naked, and then she will plant it during full moon, and then dapat dakuog bugs. Before planting it, moingon na siya. Muda ko kasama ni ini, so dapat dakuog bugs. Maliki kasama ni ini. It's up to you to balance this in the future, ha? Because there are some who don't want you to say these things. Kay makauwaw na sa Bohol. But for me, I am never ashamed of the culture because that's really rich, diba? It's a story. It's a nice story. Kamote. Magtanong gihapon siya, gifted ay imong lola. Oh, no? Kay muda ko kasama ni ini, mabuak kasama ni ini, kay kung naay liki ang ubi buot ipasabot mas humot. Oh. Mga tao ba? Ako so na mamut, but you see, if the ubi has a crack, that means it was harvested at the right age. Mura og saging. Kung ang saging pasagdan nimong mahunog sa punuan, nabi na muliki. Oo, hinog sa panahon. So, mamuot ta kay may malaki sama ni ini, maumumot, but napod siya'y connection in reality. Oo. So, up to now, actually, ilaha ko no kamote, but up to now, napay mga bukid-bukid na mugamaani. Muhimuani nga ritual. Oo. Now, during the festival, there is a contest, palamiay, o mga delicacies from the ubi. Sa una diha may category, karon kay nawala na, diha pa pud sa una gali padak ananay ug ubi. Dili na ubog sa tinuod na yun na ubi. Ingon sila, maubi to nang ipakasla ni Cesar Montano si Sunshine kay patamnon ug ubi. Bawal ang fake, bawal ang salamat do, dapat original. Kaning kinampay, the town of Ubay would claim dito gid kuno na nag-originate sa town sa Ubay ang kinampay, because ube has two varieties as well, the purple yam and the white yam. So na di ba ubi nga kanang puti, na ubi nga violet. Mostly ang ubi nga violet we use for delicacies. Kakanin the ubi nga puti, purple nga ubi ang mga delicacies, ubi jam. Ang ubi nga puti, mo na ato ang gamiton pang gulay. Gulay na siya usually. Gamit po na siya isagol o pinignit. Okay, now, we are approaching the town of Loboc, or we are already at the town of Loboc, I think. Loboc, maglubok o humay, pounding rice. You notice the spelling of Baclayon and Loboc. Bisaya man gid ang Baclayon and Loboc. However, the spelling is with letter C. Because we Filipinos are not so fond of writing. The Spaniards are asking what is the name of this place, and they're the ones to write it down. They don't have letter K. So they use letter C. That's why Baclayon and Loboc are letter C. Now, the name, the etymology of the name, they say, is that when the Spaniards arrived in this area, they saw native or local people pounding rice. They asked the name of the place, and of course there was a language barrier. So the people answered Loboc because they thought that they were asking what? They were asked what they were doing. And the name stuck for how many hundreds of years now, it is still the same. Another theory they say is when there's heavy rains up in the mountains due to the muddy sediments, the Loboc River will become Lobong River. But most people would go for the Loboc, naglubok. It is called the music capital of Bohol. Napay tagalubok ani? Wala noon. The music capital of Bohol. The first school in Bohol, the Seminario Colegio, was established in Loboc. And luckily, because most of the Filipinos were not allowed by the Spaniards to go to school, right? But here in Loboc, the Seminario Colegio was for the local boys. And the students were taught not only about religion, not only to write a little, but mostly about music. And whenever these seminarians would go home to their barangays, to their villages, there's not much else distraction, diba? There's nothing else to do. So, there is not much else to do. So, what they learn in the seminary, the playing of instruments, the reading of notes, they share that to their brothers and sisters, to their neighbors. So, every barangay here, they have their own group of musicians. In fact, we say that Loboc has the longest Christmas in Bohol. Originally, from December 25 to February 2, there are certain barangays that almost musicians would go to that schedule. For example, December 25, Barangay 1, December 26, Barangay 2. All of the musicians in other barangays would go there to serenade, to sing Christmas carols, schedule gid na siya until February 2. That's why they say they have the longest Christmas. Manay ko na sila, mazako kuno og gasto kong pista ang Suroy Musikero. Because Suroy Musikero, you feed them, ano ninyo sila, inyong hapang tagaan og dinaygunan. So doble, pista na, Pasko pa. Now, while we are having our river cruising, there are singers, musicians will sing for us, perform for us. That is their way of welcoming people to their hometown, showing a part of their culture, and that is the tradition of singing and playing music. Now, when we arrive at the docking port, where the unloading area is a bit far, so not really that far, but it's a walking distance. So please follow me right away. When we are at the entrance, that is where I will be giving you your tickets. And we have to go together because they only have 15 to 30 minute loading time. Kung wala pa mo na, alis na muglain. So dili na ta magkausa, kaya ito na mo pasak yun sa next. Dili po na tungod, kay mas naay gwapo dito sa Pikas, na next nga boat, magtuyo-tuyo na mo padugay-dugay. Jerry? Jerry gina. Si Jerry gid kuno na. So, those of you, ani man ta mo enjoy sa atong river cruising, those of you, maayo mo kanta, kamo si Jerry ato ginang i-request og pakantaon niya. Kay mo enjoy ta sa atong river cruising aron mawapod gamay ang stress. No? There's a toilet at the parking area. We urge you to use the toilet there. Although for emergency, there's a toilet on board the floating restaurant. Oo. Sa floating restaurant, hinuon po, kung kana inyong gamiton, mas nindot because that means you are fish feeding. Diretso dito, kanon sa mga isda, ugma iserve po ang isda. But sure na, ato na ha, hindi na pwede sa lahin. Ato na. Now, I know that you know they are very strict about environmental compliance sa Loboc. Pinangga kayo nila ilang river, nagid na sa titang. Kunya, kada hapon, diskarga gid na sila na certain area na padiskargahan nila. Okay. So, of course, it's buffet. Welcome drinks. Duha na siya. There's mineral water and cucumber juice. If you would like soft drinks or beer, personal account na siya. Kita naman tapanan sa Loboc River, no? Bisag picture lang. What is the color of the river? Green. Why is the color of the river green? Moss, unsa pa? The soil, unsa pa? The color of the river is green because it's not orange, it's not blue, it's not yellow. It's green because correct the type of soil that we have. It's mostly limestone. That is the reflection of the limestone and the water to the sunlight. Magkabo bagod tag tubig diha, watag baltik, watag kabo, it's clear water. That's because it's not limestone holding the water any longer. But true, dili siya orange. You go to Dumaguete, the color of the Pulang Bato River is orange. You go to China, the color of the Yangtze, that's why it's called Yellow River because the color of the water is yellowish. That's due to the type of the soil that we have. So, ang sa Dumaguete, I think it's because of the sulfur from the hot spring mo nang magyan yung taon. Pat dili lang ang tubig color orange, pati ang bato orange, pero pulang bato man siguro yung orange na Bisaya. Pulang bato ang tawag nila. However, as I have mentioned earlier, when it's heavy rains up in the mountains, it will become muddy. So, mahimo na siyang chocolate river. Brown gid na siya. Again, you can leave your things here. Would you like to use the toilet before we board the boat or you just use the toilet later? Later. Okay. So, sunod na ta, kaga, dayon ako. Our entrance area. See that white canopy in front? Nindot ba anong puding sayo kay dili padagan kayo tao? Anilang ta magtapok. Let's group here. Those green chairs. That is where I'm going to distribute your tickets. So we are parked on the wrong side of the road. When you go down, hadaplin lang kaagad. Let's pass at the front of the bus. Padong dito. We are not part of the so-called chocolate hills. The chocolate hills only or mostly cogon grasses grow, so that when it is very hot, when it is very humid, mostly March, April, May, the grasses covering the hills with a wrap, and the color will become brown. But why are they called the chocolate hills if they turn brown? The color and what? Yes, the shape, because most of the chocolates are bars, right? Flat lang. But the Kisses chocolate is the one that are shaped like this. The original name, Carmen Moto. Carmen is of course the name of the town. Moto is the vernacular for hills. Now, mahimong in English. Later on, it became Carmen Hills. During the American region after the Second World War, there were American teachers who were sent to the provinces to educate the Filipino people. They were called the Thomasides. Yes, the Thomasides. The American teacher who was assigned in Bohol, he arrived when it was summer. So when he saw the brown hills, he said that, oh, they look like giant Kisses chocolate. That's the reason why they are now called the chocolate hills. The official count, the declaration of the chocolate hills as a National Geological Monument was in 1988. And before that, scientific studies, research, and they have categorized which hills are included and which hills are not. The original count, the declaration is 1,000. Iba ano nyo? The original is 1,268. Later on, some of the hills were reported to be na quarry. So, they decided to add more hills because once it is part of the official count of the number of the chocolates, you cannot touch it. Even if you have permit of the land or land title, you cannot touch the hills anymore. That's why there was a presidential proclamation of then President Arroyo to include some of the hills in Pilar, and the official count now is 1,700. Yes. 776. Mo na naibang ko nga figure. Now, according to the geological explanation, 3 to 5 million years ago, most of Bohol was under the sea. So this area, this plateau level was also under the sea. Due to plate tectonic movements, the seabed rose up. Generally, there are two plate tectonic movements. Daghang variation, but two plate tectonic movements. One is divergent, when the plate tectonic would slide away from each other. Munang naay lugar nga mahulog. When it is convergent, magbangga na sila, so a place is being pushed up. That's what happened in Bohol. Magbangga, Hinay-hinay saka. There was a time that the level of the sea is up to here, kaninga plateau. So the corals protruded outside the seawater. Sila ratong nanggawas. No more seawater covering them. The corals died and later they became islands. There was a time that this area looks like 100 islands in Pangasinan. Panahon ganyan to purma. But then again, this area na push na pod, now the islands became hills. But if we will take a closer look at the hills, we can still see corals, we can still see shells, proving that ilang junig agad sa unang panahon. According to the legend, there was a giant who lived here. The name of the giant is Arogo. He was a nice giant. He does not harm the people. He does not hurt them. He does not eat them. He was just happy looking at what the people are doing until the giant fell in love with one of the ladies. The name of the girl is Aloya. Aloya was the most beautiful girl in this village at the time, but she was already engaged to be married to another guy. When the giant learned about this, of course, he cannot allow it. So when he saw Aloya taking a bath alone at the river, he Marami ko sa tubag sa ubag bitaw kay rape her. I really like the way you think. He kidnapped her. He picked her up and carried her on his farm. He was like King Kong. He was so big and the lady was so small on the farm. Aloya got so scared, so frightened. She had a heart attack and then she died. So wala na ma-rape. Syempre, guilty kayo ang higante. He was so guilty, he cried and cried for many days. So according to this legend, the chocolate hills are the solidified teardrops of the giant Arogo. Ay, kani, pinaspasay. Minong sa mahal. Tawag na mo na cortina sa chocolate hills. We call them curtains of the chocolate hills because they're like curtains. They hide the view of the hills na tabunan. If not for them, kita na untatag mga chocolate hills. But because of them, not a dramatic entrance. Mag-countdown tatanan. Piyong sabi, piyong kayo. Di mo mo piyong driver, di mo piyong ron. Antay. Okay. Close your eyes. Let's count from 10. Go. 10. Louder. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right side. Wow. Turista kay gating, no? Kinana gid ang reaction tinood sa mga first time nga mga kita sa mga chocolate hills. I like pointing that out even if it's a little far because it has a perfect perfect siya nga kisses, no? Kay nang kuay naman rounded. Lahi na putot liwat na ako. So, di ba ang chocolate hills, they range from 40 meters up to 120 meters above the ground. So even if you are at the town of Batuan, Bilar, Carmen, if you are not more than 40 meters, you are not included in the chocolate hills. Katulad yung 40 meters, may height requirement. Imagine millions of years ago, this was under the sea. So during those times, the fish, the dolphins, they were swimming in this area. Si Nemo, si Dory, si Ursula, si Ariel, sila may naglangoy-langoy ani sa una. Now the view deck, there it is, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock naman siguro. 2 levels. Our bus can go up to the first level, going up to the second level, that's 220 steps. Yes. From the chocolate hills all the way, we'll drive directly all the way to Tagbilaran City. That's 1 hour and 15 minutes, 1 hour and 30 minutes. You better use the toilet facilities before we leave the chocolate hills. Now, mao naman yung last stop na to. How many minutes would you like to stay? Our usual staying time is 30. Mostly, when we tour in every stop that we have, except of course the lunch and river cruising, 30 minutes. You, how many minutes do you want to spend at the chocolate hills?
We can do in here aside from
Just viewing and picture taking. Oh, look at this here on the side. Sa baseline sa hills, we can still see corals, diba? Oo. Doon pagitana, we can still see shells. Now, there's more corals here. minutes? 30 minutes na lang? We'll stick to the usual staying time? Okay. Extra things you can do later on, you can offer to your guests as well, is the ATV ride. What's the name again of the giant? Arogo. Do you want to see Arogo? Okay. After this trees here, look to your left side. There is a mountain range. Bluish na siyang kalingaw color. Among all the hills, there is a mountain range. According to the legend, that is the body of the giant Arogo. Ayaw mo katinga o di mo kakita. Ay mga guwa para kung may pakitaon. This is probably one of the best angles in taking pictures of the chocolate hills. Yes. Makita ninyo si Arogo dito sa second level. Wapa na gitanan. We will wait till the bus is properly parked before we are allowed to go down. The same way that when you see the bus coming up here, ayaw lang katagbo because they will have to park properly before they are allowed to load us again. Nakasabaan tayo ng ilang mga traffic enforcer. Right side, that's the 220 steps. Toilet facilities here. And smokers club. Uy, alam, mga madre man to dito. Kanap itong tambayan sa madre. What's la kay Bao? That's the smoking area. Oo, dapat. Now that the no smoking law is implemented, we always remind our guests where they could smoke. For me, for example, it's important that they will respect our place na no smoking. So kita mo maingon nila og asa sila dapat pwedeng mag-smoke, otherwise magtago-tago po sumangin naman sila sila kay Bao. But actually before they come to our country, naman ko na briefing. Sila kay Bao na sila. So we have to park like them, like that bus, before we unload. If you would like to buy something to drink, there's a restaurant here. If you want blind massage, para kanang way laktaw bitaw, napo dire. Ako ginagi-offer sa akong mga guests, matabangan po sila.